The sun was a brilliant, fiery orb hanging high in a cloudless sky, its rays dancing across the turquoise surface of the water like a million scattered diamonds. It was the kind of day you dream about when you're stuck in an office, the kind that postcards are made of. I'd flown thousands of miles to this remote slice of paradise, a small island fringed with powdery white sand and lush green palms. The air was thick with the sweet scent of salt and tropical flowers, a heady perfume that promised adventure. My mission for the day was simple: explore the vibrant coral reef just offshore and capture the ultimate vacation selfie. A picture that would scream "living the dream" to everyone back home. I waded into the gentle surf, the water cool and refreshing against my skin. The ocean here was incredibly clear. I could see tiny colorful fish darting around my ankles as if welcoming me into their world. I had my snorkel gear on, my fins ready, and my phone secured in its waterproof case, dangling from a lanyard around my neck. The plan was flawless. I had been in the water for maybe 20 minutes, lost in the mesmerizing dance of the reef. The coral formations were like alien architecture, rising in intricate spires and sprawling gardens of purple, orange, and green. I was about 50 yards from shore, floating effortlessly above this underwater spectacle. That's when I first saw it. Not the shark itself, but a subtle shift in the environment. A flash of movement on the periphery of my vision. Something quicker and more deliberate than the lazy sway of the sea fans, or the gentle drift of the fish. It was a flicker of silver, a glint of reflected sunlight off something sleek and powerful. And then I saw it more clearly, a shape. A long, dark shadow moving with an unnerving grace and purpose. It wasn't drifting, it was patrolling. The shadow was torpedo-shaped, instantly recognizable, and it sent a cold spike of adrenaline straight into my heart. This was not a dolphin, this was not a friendly manatee, it was a shark. Despite the cold fear gripping me, a bizarre and foolish thought entered my head. The selfie, the whole reason I was out here. For a fleeting insane second I thought, this is it, the ultimate selfie. My own face, wide-eyed and pale behind the mask, stared back at me. This was a moment of pure adrenaline-fueled absurdity. Just as I was attempting to angle the phone to get both my face and the shark in the shot, the shark changed its course. It stopped its parallel patrol and made a slow, deliberate turn towards me. It was no longer just passing by, it was investigating. The predator was now aware of the strange, clumsy creature floating on the surface, and it was coming to get a closer look. The moment the shark turned towards me, the ridiculous idea of a selfie vanished from my mind, replaced by a tidal wave of pure, unadulterated panic. My hand jerked and the phone slipped from my grasp. I was alone, unarmed, and the subject of a shark's growing curiosity. The shark closed the distance, its dark, unblinking eye fixed on me. My heart was no longer just drumming, it was a frantic, wild piston trying to hammer its way out of my chest. Every beat echoed in my ears, a deafening roar that drowned out all other sound. I could feel the blood rushing through my body, a hot surge of adrenaline that made my limbs feel both weak and supercharged at the same time. My mind was a maelstrom of fear-soaked thoughts. This is it. This is how it ends. I'm going to be a statistic, another foolish tourist who didn't respect the ocean. I fought the urge to scream, knowing that sound travels differently underwater, and a panicked noise might only agitate the shark further. The shark continued its approach, now only about 10 feet away. It was so close I could see the texture of its skin, a rough sandpapery surface designed for speed. Its eyes, black and devoid of any emotion I could recognize, seemed to look right through me. But a small, rational corner of my brain was screaming, "Don't splash! Don't act like prey!" The internal battle was immense, the primal need for flight versus the logical imperative to stay calm. The loss of my phone, which had felt so catastrophic just a moment before, was now a blessing in disguise. It had snapped me out of my absurd selfie-seeking stupor and forced me to confront the reality of my situation. My hands were now free, not occupied with a piece of technology. My focus was singular: survival. There were no more distractions, no thoughts of capturing the moment for social media. With my hands free, I remembered another piece of advice. If a shark gets too close, you may need to defend yourself. The snorkel, still in my mouth, suddenly felt like a potential tool, however flimsy. It was a mental shift from being a passive victim to being an active participant in my own survival. I was no longer just a terrified tourist, I was an animal trying to stay alive. I consciously slowed my breathing, trying to make my exhalations long and smooth through the snorkel to avoid making panicked, bubbling sounds. I knew that calm, deliberate actions were my best chance. I also made the critical decision not to take my eyes off the shark. It was an intense, unnerving, staring contest with a creature that held all the cards. The standoff felt like it lasted an eternity, though in reality it was probably no more than a minute or two. The shark began to circle me, maintaining a distance of about 10 feet. Its movements were fluid and mesmerizing, a dance of deadly grace. With every pass, its dark eye would lock onto mine, a cold, analytical gaze that seemed to peel back my layers of confidence and expose the terrified creature beneath. I floated as still as I could, pivoting my body slowly to keep it in my line of sight. I tried to make myself appear as large and unfish-like as possible. I spread my arms and legs out slightly, breaking up my silhouette. I was trying to communicate in the only language we shared, body language. My posture was meant to say, I see you, I am not prey, I am not a threat, but I am not helpless. During one of its passes, the shark came slightly closer, its pectoral fin almost brushing against my outstretched fins. The proximity was startling. I could have reached out and touched it, a thought that was both terrifying and strangely compelling. I saw the intricate pattern of its skin, the powerful muscles moving beneath it. It was a magnificent animal, a perfectly evolved hunter. For a split second my fear was tinged with a profound sense of awe. Then as suddenly as it had begun, the shark's behavior changed. It completed one more slow circle, gave me one last long look, and then seemed to lose interest. Its posture relaxed, and with a powerful, almost lazy flick of its tail, it turned away from me and swam back towards the deeper water off the edge of the reef. The shadow dissolved back into the blue from which it came, leaving me alone in the sudden, deafening silence. For a few moments after the shark disappeared, I remained frozen in place, unable to move. My body was still locked in a high alert mode, and my mind refused to believe it was over. I kept scanning the deep blue, expecting the shark to reappear at any moment. The colorful reef fish, which had likely taken cover during the encounter, had not yet returned. The entire reef seemed to be holding its breath, just like me. Slowly, cautiously, the feeling began to return to my limbs. The first wave of relief washed over me, so powerful it almost made me dizzy. I was alive. I was unharmed. The encounter was over. But I knew I wasn't safe yet. I was still 50 yards from the beach, floating in the open ocean. I began my retreat, but I did it slowly and deliberately. I started kicking my fins with long, smooth, and quiet strokes, trying to be as inconspicuous as possible. I swam backwards, keeping my eyes fixed on the deep water where the shark had disappeared. The swim back to shore was the longest 50 yards of my life. Every piece of floating seaweed, every shadow cast by a cloud passing overhead, sent a fresh jolt of fear through me. Finally my fins scraped against sand. I had reached the shallows. I stumbled the last few feet through the gentle surf, collapsing onto the warm, white sand. I ripped my mask and snorkel off my face and lay there on my back, gasping for air, my chest heaving. The sun felt warm on my skin, the sand solid and real beneath me. I was safe. I was on land. Lying on that beach, with my heart rate slowly returning to normal, the lessons from the encounter began to crystallize in my mind. The first and most obvious lesson was about the folly of my initial goal. I had entered the shark's home, its territory, with a trivial and self-absorbed purpose: to get a selfie. I was so focused on capturing an image for my digital life that I had become completely disconnected from my real-life environment. In the days and weeks that followed, the terror slowly faded, and what was left was not fear, but a profound and lasting respect. I came to see the encounter not as a near-death experience but as a privileged, if terrifying, moment of connection with the wild. It was a powerful reminder that the ocean is not just a big blue swimming pool for our enjoyment. It is a complex living wilderness, teeming with life that deserves our reverence. This experience fundamentally changed my relationship with the ocean. I still love the water, but I no longer enter it with the same casual, carefree attitude. Now there is always an undercurrent of humility and awareness. The shark taught me that I am a guest in its home and I must behave accordingly. It was a lesson delivered without malice, a simple statement of fact from the rightful ruler of that domain. Ultimately, I am grateful for the encounter. It taught me that the greatest souvenirs from our travels are not the pictures we take, but the perspectives we gain. I may have set out to capture a fleeting image of myself in paradise, but I came back with something far more permanent. A deeper understanding of my place on this planet and an unwavering respect for the wild, beautiful, and powerful blue heart of our world. And that is a story worth telling, far more than any selfie.